look at the problems that aren't being solved by the contingent model.
Yep.
That's the starting point, because that's where clients will make a financial commitment to solve a problem.
Yeah.
And see it as that it isn't money up front, and it isn't just so that you can prioritize it. It's a financial commitment in return for putting a process in place that will enable you to solve a problem that without it you couldn't. And that's the simplest and easiest way to start. And my tips around it would be, don't just assume that the financial commitment on its own is going to solve the problem. It's nice. You get that retainer, the buzz is massive. You're like, oh my God, I've got a retainer. Oh my God, this is amazing. Brilliant. But then you actually got to deliver it.
Welcome to Saul Searching, the Saul Recruitment Podcast, where we tackle all sorts of great topics in the areas of recruitment, job searching, mindset, technology, marketing, culture, and lots more. It's amazing what you'll pick up. Thanks for joining me. Welcome back, everyone. It's another fantastic episode of Saul Searching, the Saul Recruitment Podcast. It's episode 65, first one for the year. I welcome everybody to 2025. Hopefully it's going to be a great one. And I have the fantastic Louise Archer in the house with me all the way from the UK. How are you, Louise?
Hey, Darren. I'm good, thank you. Very good. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here. It's lovely to talk to you.
Thanks for joining me. Really appreciate it. And we're going to be talking about a very interesting and always well-debated topic. The topic for today, from frustration to revolution, Louise Archer's retained search journey. So as you can imagine, we're going to be talking all about the recruitment industry and retained search. So for anyone who doesn't know who Louise Archer is, she's a dynamic founder and CEO of Retrained Search, a fast-growing recruitment training business revolutionizing how recruitment agencies operate. Driven by her personal frustrations as a contingent recruiter, Louise launched Retrained Search in 2018 with a bold mission to help recruiters shift to a retained business model, empowering them to work more effectively and profitably. When the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted traditional training methods, she swiftly adapted, transforming her in-person training business into an innovative online platform. The pivot not only kept her business thriving, but also allowed her to build a global community of recruiters supported by her expert team of retained search specialists. So join us as Louise shares her inspiring journey and the story behind her mission to reshape the future of the recruitment industry. So welcome, Louise.
Oh, wow, that's good. Who wrote that?
Oh, it's pretty good, isn't it?
I've not heard that before, yeah.
I'll give you a copy.
Somebody's done a good job there. Yeah, I'd love a copy. Did you write that?
With the help of some AI.
Oh, I love
I used your bio and I plugged it into some other stuff and I put it all together and it turned into a nice little piece of bio.
I love it. Thank you. Very nice. I feel humbled to be introduced so well. Thank you very much.
No problem. But I'd love to jump in. I'd love to hear your story about what inspired you to set up your business and really go all in on retained search and why you're so passionate about helping other recruiters.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I guess the first thing to say is that I didn't set out to do it.
Okay.
And I actually really didn't want to set my own business up. And I hope my parents aren't listening to this. I'm sure they won't be. But they both worked for themselves. They both had their own businesses and they worked so hard that myself and my brother hardly ever saw them. And I vowed never to have my own business. And especially as I had children, as I grew up, and I decided I just don't want to have the pressure of having my own business. So I was almost definitely not ever going to do what I've actually just done. And I definitely, having spent many years in recruitment and being trained by different people and having the experience of training, never set out to be a trainer or a recruitment trainer. Not taking anything away from recruitment trainers, but I maybe hadn't had the best experience there. And it certainly wasn't something that I aspired to do. So I definitely did not set out to do what I've done. I think that's the first thing to say.
Yeah.
What actually happened was I was a contingent recruiter for years and years. And I liked it. Like, to begin with, I really liked it. I really liked the pace. I loved the joy of, yes, getting kicks out of matching people and the satisfaction that comes with changing people's lives, really. And even when I was only in my kind of early 20s, when I really started properly making permanent placements that do have a massive effect on people's lives. It's a lot to be doing when you're really young, and I think I've got a natural kind of help, having done so many personality tests, a natural want to help people, and I get real satisfaction out of affecting that kind of positive change. That it was a real thrill for me for many years, and I really, really enjoyed it. And then, because getting the money that then comes with it, and you can make a lot of money quite young, really, in the industry we're in. I'm sure you talk about a lot on your podcast. Yep. And that was just a joy, and it really met all of my needs, and the fun that goes with it, and the type of people it attracts, and the roller coaster of the journey that was my contingent career. It wasn't until I got a bit older and a bit wiser, and I had kids actually, and actually found myself a single parent, that it started to grate on me a little bit, and it started to wear on me when I was putting so much time and effort into working with clients in industries that I knew, with talent pools I understood, and a certain experience, and I don't want to say wisdom because that's too far, but knowledge that I knew I could help. Yeah. And then working on things that then didn't result in a fee because, I don't know, the client changed their minds, or goalposts shifted, or somebody else just randomly dropped an NPC or a spec CV in, and then that kind of threw things off balance. Or clients reject really good candidates for no reason, or HR get on, all the things that bloody happen when you're in that situation, and mean that I just ended up realizing that I was spending a lot of my time working on stuff that wasn't making me money, and I could spend that time much more beneficially for my children, because going back to the whole reason I didn't want to work for myself is to be able to spend as much time as I could doing a good job of raising my kids. And that's when I started to get frustrated with it. And I think a lot of people do. And it started to make me think, what am I doing? Why am I, spending? And I had a concept that retained search existed, but I think I always thought it was executive, and that was going to be a world that it wasn't open to me.
Yeah.
So I think I got to the stage where I was a bit done with recruitment, and I was ready to leave and do something else. Really, I was that kind of ground down by it. And that was the kind of moment, I think, where serendipity, fate, I don't know, but I was introduced to a guy who was actually the only person in the company I was working with at the time who had experience of working on a retained basis. And I was lucky enough to sit next to him, basically. It was like as simple as that. It was just proximity to hear and find out more about what he was doing, and find out that it wasn't executive positions, actually. Yeah. And it wasn't this kind of dark art of mystery that was never going to be open to me. And he was getting retainers on projects of the same level that I was recruiting.
Fascinating.
And I was like, yeah, that's interesting. And it's grown arms and legs, really, from there. I think one of the things that was happening at the time was the firm that I was working for was going through like a transaction. At the time, I didn't really understand that, because I wasn't as clued up of business and mergers and acquisitions and that thing as I am now. But they were going through a merger as it happened, and the business was being valued, and the contract side of the business, the interim side of the business, was being valued very highly. But the perm side of the business, the direct hire side of the business, really wasn't, because it was mainly contingent, and the forecasts were so different from the actuals that the company valuing it, private equity firm or whatever it was valuing it, was saying, like, unless you can shore up this revenue, there really isn't a very big value to this division of the firm. And as luck would have it, I was then tasked with this guy, Matt Howell, who I owe so much to, and I speak about him a lot and very highly, with Matt, to shore up the revenue of the perm business and make those forecasts more predictable, because we were both quite experienced, and he had this experience of working on a retained basis. And so we embarked on that mission to shore up the revenue. And in that, I had to learn, what's this retained thing then? And if it's not executive, what is it? And How do you sell it? Why do clients even do it? Why do they like make an upfront payment when there are so many people saying, "Oh, we're happy to work on it for nothing"? And that's where it all started for me. Yeah.
And any idea where he was introduced to it? Like, why was he the only one in the company, and where did he come up with it?
Yeah, I don't think he did. I think he was more experienced than me. So he was prior to joining, he was a recruitment manager at a firm that was a rival firm, Furcroft, and I think he'd had some experience of it there.
That's right.
Was he the only one? There might have been one other, but then he left, because that now I know that it's quite common that if you get one person being able to sell retainers, they're difficult to retain, ironically, within a bigger firm, because the kind of culture is quite different and the way that they operate is quite different. So it's a little bit being like a fish out of water. So yeah, I think there was one other, but then they left, and it ended up with just being Matt that had some experience of doing it.
Amazing.
And it was quite rudimentary, really. It was just, I'm not taking anything away, because at the time it was fucking groundbreaking, right? But initially it was the simplicity of some financial commitment from a client enabling us to then solve a problem that wasn't being solved with the contingent model.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the intricacies of executive search and full retained search, but it was an engaged type model that enabled us to transition from a contingent model to a retained model. And it totally took off. Like it worked an absolute treat.
Love it. I always liken it to, there was always contingent, and then exclusive, and then retained. Retained is like exclusive with some financial commitment.
But there's another level, right? And I didn't know this at that time, and I've learned so much since then and continue to learn. I don't think you're a serial podcaster, so it sounds like you've got a growth mindset too, and you never stop learning. And I've learned so much since that actually, yes, there's contingent, and exclusivity helps because that eliminates some of the problems that causes the contingent model to fall over. That removes the competition. So it means we don't have to work at a million miles an hour and just throw shit in quickly to make sure that nobody else does. Yeah. And it removes the whole spec CV thing, but it doesn't solve all of the problems. The client can still go on holiday partway through and just not feed back, or ghost you, or they can decide not to hire it, or they can change the parameters on you. It doesn't solve all of the problems.
Definitely.
The next step is this engagement type model, or some people call it contingent, some people call it engaged, where some financial commitment enables you to prioritize the position, enables you to spend more time on it, enables you to maybe spend money on or time on video interviewing or some kind of form of assessment of candidates. And that again eliminates some of the problems. But then when you consider that is actually still majority contingent, and what I mean by that is a part of the fee is paid on commencement, but the majority of the fee is still contingent or dependent upon making the placement, right?
Yep.
That fully retained, actually, no part of their fee is contingent upon making the placement.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So the fully retained firms, they charge a third on commencement, a third after 30 days, and a third 30 days later. So no part of their fee is contingent upon making the placement.
Gotcha.
So there's even another layer, and who knows, there's probably more layers. Then you get into the insights and the engagement and the future talent pipelining, which is even more interesting. Yes, right. But yes, there's a scale of commitment and what you're able then to do in return.
I always thought that a third was a very executive style model, but obviously that can be called retained for everybody as well. As you say, it's fully
absolutely
retained.
Absolutely. So when you say a third, again, there's different ways of structuring that. It can be a third on commencement, a third on agreed shortlist, and a third on completion of the project, which is generally my main experience is based on working on that model. But like I say, the big firms, the Shrek firms, your Spencer Stewart's, Heidrick and Struggles, Russell Reynolds and so on, they don't work to milestones. It's billed on time, 30 days, and 30 days later. So a third can be used in different ways. But then again, of course, yes, retained is different from executive search. Retained search might just be a critical hire or a niche hire or something that's just not being solved with the contingent model. not necessarily executive, and almost always not actually executive. An executive search is different. It's very different, and the process that you apply to an executive search would be different. But the CFO in a Fortune 500 would be a very different process to a senior process engineer for an electrical engineering firm, for example.
The search would be different. The sales process, the sales cycle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, fascinating. I just really love how even within that one phrase or one model of retained, there are so many intricacies and so many variables. It's not just one
so
model.
many.
There are so many different ways to skin a cat. Yeah. So I'd love to.
Yeah, they really are. Yeah.
And I'd love to take that further and ask you then, when recruiters want to or decide to go that way, what's the best way for them to start? What model should they choose? Should they go all in, or should they go partial? What's the best way for them to do it?
I found it much easier to step into it gradually rather than going straight to the top. I think I actually approached a couple of the Shrek firms because once I realized that I potentially could do this, and this was actually a model that I could work to, I thought, I want to know what it's like at the top, how the best do it.
Yeah, sure.
And sadly, I got rejected because I don't have a degree. But yeah, I didn't get the chance to do that first anyway, and experience that in the early days. The simplicity for me and what worked really well for me, and as Matt showed me, was look at the problems that aren't being solved by the contingent model. That's the starting point, because that's where clients will make a financial commitment to solve a problem. And see it as that it isn't money up front, and it isn't just so that you can prioritize it. It's a financial commitment in return for putting a process in place that will enable you to solve a problem that without it you couldn't. And that's the simplest and easiest way to start, really. And my tips around it would be, don't just assume that the financial commitment on its own is going to solve the problem. It's nice. You get that retainer, the buzz is massive. You're like, oh my God, I've got a retainer. Oh my God, this is amazing. Brilliant. But then you actually got to deliver it. And I really want those of you that are experimenting with it to make sure that you then put in a process that mitigates against all the things that could go wrong. Not just the fact that you need a bit more time to headhunt it or find more candidates. And think of all the things that could go wrong, like the client rejecting good candidates for no reason, or them just going on holiday partway through and not telling you, or another stakeholder getting involved. And that's where people tend to fall over in the early days. And I see a lot of people maybe getting the odd retainer and then screwing it up, or not being able to deliver it properly, or having a bad experience, and then going, that's no good, I don't like that, I'm just going back to contingent. And I'm like, come back, it's okay, with a bit of process, we can get you there. And I was having a call with my kind of co-coach, who was a student of the course actually originally, and he said it's like a lot of people get partway over the bridge and then go, oh no, and then turn around and go back again to contingent. And sometimes you just need a little bit more help to. And don't forget, I think a lot of people beat themselves up and think, I should be able to do this. Other people can do this. And no, I'm not stupid. And we're not, right? We're the reason we're in the industry, the reason we've stayed in it, and the reason we've made it this far is because we're pretty bright and we're pretty sharp. And I can tell almost probably everybody listening to this that if you want to, you definitely can do it. This is not rocket science. But there are intricacies of what makes it work sustainably, profitably, successfully, that we just don't know as contingent recruiters, because we haven't worked for those retained firms and we haven't seen under the bonnet, and we don't know what should happen if we don't get feedback on time for the client, which then means we lose the candidate that was actually the only one that was suitable for the position. Right. So how would we know that? Because we've never worked this model before. So I just want to implore everybody, really, don't panic at that stage. Just get the help you need wherever you get it from. Get some help, and you might need a bit of help to just get those few things in place to be able to then go, yeah, cool, I've got him on the other side of the bridge. And then you've got another world of executive and mapping or pipelining and all the stuff that I then ended up going into that opens up to you. Exactly, yeah.
And that's really interesting, because listening to you, it makes me think, oh my God, there obviously have to be a lot of controls and pre-thought and paperwork and clauses and everything has got to be done properly, because you've got to really cover those scenarios before you take on that type of role. Is that correct?
I was thinking about this the other day, actually. Yeah, prevention is better than cure, right? You don't really want to be in a situation where you get to the end of a search project and it's, or you're midway through a search project and it's gone off the rails, or it's fallen off track, and your relationship starts to deteriorate with the client, and you've defeated the whole object, right? You might have been better not to do it if that's, and that's why I do meet a lot of people that either shy away from it for that reason, or have had a go and then don't do it.
Yeah.
So yes, prevention is better than cure, and it is important to have a robust process that is mitigating all the things that can go wrong and the terms that support that.
Yeah.
But having said that, again, that isn't rocket science, and it is absolutely possible. And if you wanted to figure it out on your own, you would be able to get there. Okay. And there are people that can help you with it. Just like you wouldn't do your own conveyancing for a house purchase. You wouldn't, I don't do my own accounts. I probably could figure it out, but oh my God, I'd rather pay someone else to do it. Which is, I think, why. Two things. Firstly, there isn't a lot of paperwork. You still just need an outline of how we're going to work together and what that's going to look like, your statement of work, your proposal, your agreement, whatever that looks like, and you need the legal terms to back that up. And of course, the narrative to be able to explain to your client how that's going to work, and the confidence to walk them through what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, what's going to happen if this happens, what's going to happen if this happens, and how it's going to go, and what you need from them in order to make sure the project is successful. We need those things on a contingent basis anyway, right? Sure. It's just a different narrative and a different set of terms and a different agreement. Yep. So it's no more or less. I think a lot of people look at Retain and think, oh, it's really report heavy and it's a load of admin. And actually, yes, for executive positions, executive search, yes, because often those processes they need to be auditable. They need to be evidenced. So the reason that they've made the decision that they've made needs to have a report trail. Yes. Because they're reporting to shareholders or investors and the board. And it isn't just I think I'm going to go with this one because I feel that he's or she is the better fit. You know, it's not a feel thing. It's got to be evidence. Yeah. But when we're just hiring a senior or C++ engineer, then it doesn't. So we don't need all that stuff. Yeah. And the reason that we need to control the process is purely because we need to make sure we reach a result, and the best result that's available to us all. And secondly, this is the whole reason that I've ended up doing what I'm doing, not because I set out to or because I wanted to, but because I felt like I had to, because I'd managed to get to the stage where I'd learned a whole heap of this stuff. Not everything, like I said before, I'm still learning, but I'd learned a whole heap of this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, why didn't no one fucking tell me this? Why didn't you tell me this from the start? I wouldn't have wasted my time working on all those rock solid things where there was all these things going wrong and I didn't have any commitment, and going home, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. It's driving me insane. Yeah. Because years before that, I would have moved to work to a different model. And I know that not everybody wants to, and that's cool. Everyone should do what they want to do. But for me, I would have done it years before I had, if somebody had shown me how to do it and given me the tools and the clarity of actually what to do and how to do it. Amazing. And so I was looking around, like, people in my firm were saying, oh, can you teach everyone in the company now how to do this? And I'm like, Matt was like, oh yeah, okay, we could do this and we could put some training together. And I'm like, my God, I've never done anything like that before, but okay, we'll give it a go. And so we started doing it internally, and wow. Yeah, I did the UK, and then Matt went out and did the US, and between us, we just got it, and now they're all fully retained, and they don't do any contingent. And they do. Last time I spoke to the chairman, it was about $12.5 million a year, all retained. Wow. And so people started asking me externally, and when I left that firm, will you come and do that for us? Will you come and teach us? And I realized that nobody else was doing it. Nobody else was showing people what they really needed to know. Yeah. Not you just need, all I'd been told, I'd had retainer training, and it was like, value your time. This American dude had come in and said, you just need to value your time. And that didn't work for me, right? Because I already did value my time. That wasn't the problem. It was the nuts and bolts of what I actually had to do and how to explain that to my client, and how to explain why and how this would make sure that you reached a result. So it wasn't just the sell, it was actually the delivery, what I was going to do differently. And those two are inextricably interlinked, because you can't explain it properly if you don't actually know what you're going to do differently.
Yeah.
And so I looked around and I was like, nobody else is doing this. Why is nobody else teaching people this stuff? So I started doing it. And that was when I realized of the difference I could make. And then I started getting that buzz and that love that I get from seeing the difference that it makes helping people with stuff. And then I was like, oh, this is cool, actually. I really like doing this.
Very cool.
And yeah, that's how Retrained was born.
Amazing. Oh, what a great story. I love how things organically just unfold like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Then you're just
in
that direction and you look back and you go, wow, how did that happen?
Yeah. It's cool. It is pretty cool. Yeah, it's very good. And now it's taken a while to condense it into and work out the simplest way of being able to give everybody everything that they need just at the right time. And someone said it to me the day, actually said, what I love about working with you guys is you just give us exactly what we need right when we're ready for it. It's not too much. It's not enough, but it's just exactly at the right moments. And yeah, people can do it. The people that come in going, oh, I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to do this or not, come out going, oh my God, I've done it. Like, here I am and I'm fully retained. And who knew that was going to be possible? Like the same for me. And it's cool. It's really good. It's very, very good.
Very, very cool. Now, my question as well is, what about people that want to dabble in a bit of both? What would you say to them?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it. I know some people are purists and say, you've got to either be retained or not at all. And bullshit. I just don't agree. That's just not my experience of it at all. I'm a firm believer that there are different solutions for different problems, and it just depends on the situation. I've always liked to work with my client in different ways, depending on the circumstances. Yeah. If it's an relatively easy to fill, straightforward hire where you can put an advert on, find a few CVs, interview a few candidates and make a hire, happy days. Why do you need a retainer for that? There's no need. You just don't need a sledgehammer to crack a walnut, as they say. But when you get a situation where it is niche, or it's in an awkward location, or it's an age requirement that's been out for a while, or the contingent model isn't yielding the result that you're looking for, then it is necessary to put a more rigorous and more robust process in place that mitigates against the things that can go wrong. And in order to do that, we require some financial commitment from the client, which in turn enables us to make sure that we reach a result. And so on that situation, I would deploy a retained, or technically an engaged model, where that allows us to solve the problem. And indeed, if the client is embarking on a C-suite hire or a non-exec or board appointment, then I would put a full executive search process in place that would include formal referencing or behavioural assessment and maybe even face-to-face interviewing. So I don't believe that you have to do one or the other. It is most certainly dependent upon circumstances.
Yeah, I love that. And also, you highlighted really well that it's not always inter-client. It sometimes can be variety intra-client. So even with the same client, you might have some retained and some not. So that's cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's whatever the situation is and the circumstance dictates, really. Yeah.
Cool. So Louise, I'd love to hear more a bit about your transition as well, from when you started working in that more face-to-face training model to the platform that you built online during 2019 and 2020.
Yeah, in COVID, I remember it well. Sneaking around trying to film videos and writing scripts, and oh my God, it was hard. It was really hard. It's very different training in the classroom to training online. I wasn't sure whether it was going to work, honestly. I was worried, but the thing is, I was training teams, and I had a client who wanted me to I was due to travel out to the US to do their US teams, having done several of their teams in the UK, and I couldn't get on the plane, and I couldn't go out and deliver sessions in the classroom. And I didn't have any choice. Yeah. But they said to me, actually, would you mind just recording a few videos so that we can watch them until we're allowed to bring you over? And that was when I was like, that's an interesting thought. Yeah. And I bumped into a fantastic, I was going to call her a girl, but a woman called Claire Brevitt on one of my client sites that I was training, and she was in one of my training. And she collared me afterwards and said, your training is insane. I don't know whether you've ever thought about it, but it would be amazing to have it like in videos that people can watch, because it's quite hard to digest everything in the classroom. And I was like, yeah, that is one of my challenges. I'll do a session in the classroom and everyone will go, wow, and all these pennies would drop. And then they'd be like, hang on a minute, what did she say then? And what did she say about that? And as much as we could get it down. And then we were like, oh, maybe we get a videographer in the classroom to be able to video it, and then they can watch it back afterwards. And we were going down that route anyway. And I was thinking that would solve some of the challenges I have. And then I'd started to think, because I share a lot of collateral, I share a lot of templates, pitch decks, proposal templates. And all the time I'm putting them together and emailing them out. And I'm thinking, I wonder if I can get them all together in one place where they can be saved and everyone can go in and get what they need. And so when that happened, I thought, this is what I've got to do. This is what I've got to do. I've got to get it into a format where people can watch it from the comfort of their own homes at the pace that they feel that they can digest it. So they can pause it and go, whoa, hang on a minute, rewind. What did you say about that? Let me just listen to that again. And I need the word track for that. Oh, and I need the document that goes with that at the same time. That I thought, this could actually be better than what I was doing in the classroom. So I just absolutely threw myself into it. And I was so lucky that Claire and her husband, Ben, who was the videographer, were absolutely insane. And they just really helped me map it all out, lay it all out, get it in a relaxed, like conversational, easy to listen to format. And we're now on version 2. So we re-scripted and refilmed and reproduced the whole thing about 12 months ago now, from the original kind of bootstrap version that we'd put together in a WordPress site. And it's just, yeah, it's been phenomenal, because I can now, teach a lot of people at the same time, because we have group sessions where I'm coaching, we do smaller cohorts of 4, and then we do bigger groups for some of the subjects. And then in their own time, they can be watching the little pieces that you need to be in a quiet environment where pennies can drop, and you can pause it and go for a walk and get a coffee. And it's wonderful now. I'm so happy that situation forced that change, because it's so much better and we can help so many more people.
Amazing. What a great journey. How cool.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done. And so do you still do any live face-to-face training, or it's more virtual?
Not training. We do things like masterclasses. Okay. So we go and do, like we did in Sydney. So we were over in Melbourne and Sydney in May last year, and we're coming again in September to do the same thing.
Nice.
So we did a masterclass at the RCSA conference on one topic. That was on winning retained and mindset. And then we did another one in Sydney on overcoming barriers mentally and objections from clients. And we're doing a similar thing again. We're not speaking at the RCSA conference, but we are going to do our own masterclass in September in Sydney. Right. So we do those things globally. We're in the US in March doing something similar too, and we do them online. So we have them on our website as regular masterclasses that you can join remotely. Right. But no, other than that, not really. I don't tend to, because I find that the time that I can spend coaching from here, I can help more people than the physical journey time, the hour or 2 in the classroom that I can spend. But having sat in classrooms myself and been trained, I know there's only so much you can take in each session. Yeah. And that means I've got to kind of travel there, do that, and then go away and then come back again, because this isn't a single session thing. If you could learn it in one session, everybody would have already moved to retain by now. So there's more to it than just one session. I know I can't do it all in, like I couldn't do an offsite and just get it all done in 3 or 4 days, because it's just too much. You can't get there. You need the time to digest all the different pieces and why, where it fits and why it fits. And it just isn't the best way to do it. It just isn't the best way to do it. So now I don't really do face-to-face stuff anymore.
It makes sense, because there's also, as you mentioned, there's so many decks and extra material that can be used at the same time. Sometimes the technology allows for that even better than face-to-face.
Oh, yeah. And to be fair, like so much of our business now is done remotely, that teaching people how to do remotely is actually better. And even some of the face-to-face stuff I used to do, it was like, I'm going to sit in this room on my laptop and you sit in that room on your laptop and let's do this as if we're on a Zoom call. It's just crazy. But we do face-to-face stuff, like we'll meet people and find out more about their businesses. So when we come in September, we'll meet as many firms that want to meet us, as many individuals, independent recruiters that want to sit and spend time with us. I think we did about 25 kind of face-to-face sessions, one-to-one with different business owners or one-man bands, and just finding out their situation and what advice we've got on their kind of journey to Retained. And that was the best bit. Like, the masterclasses are great, but the best bit is actually sitting down with individuals and saying, tell us about you, where you're at with it, what's going well, where you're struggling, where we might be able to help you.
Exactly. Yeah. Leads me to my next question, because I was going to ask you, I'd love to hear a story or a case study of when you took someone through the training that really needed it and had enough and was about to give up, and all of a sudden, wow, it's changed their life and they're now flourishing and they're happy as ever.
Oh my God, so many people. Yeah, all the time. Like Nick Green is one that I always think of. You know, he actually said, I was really jaded, a bit like me. I was really jaded with contingent, only 1 in 4, 1 in 5 fill rates, just working on stuff that didn't result in a fee. And then he actually said, and now, like, clients just don't want to work with me any other way. They don't want to work on a contingent basis. And I'm reborn, like he's been reborn, like because of it, which is fantastic. Only just the other day, I saw one from Joanna Briley, and she said she was ready to leave the industry. And I was trying to quote exactly what she said.
So it's almost like the Matrix. Is it the blue pill, the green pill, or the red pill? Once you take the green pill, it's like the whole world opens up.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, once you know how to do it and you feel confident in the way that not just you're selling it, but the way that you're delivering it, people are like, why would you work any other way? Yeah, we just end up with loads of emails, messages. They get posts in the community of saying, it's changed my life. It's actually changed. What did one guy said? He said, it's made me a better friend, husband and father because of the way it's changed the way I do business with my clients, the way I feel about myself, the way I feel about my career, and
time management,
stories like that all the time. And that's what it did for me. That's exactly what it did for me. It just brought the love back of falling in love with what I was doing again, and being able to actually affect the kind of change that I wanted to and make an impact. And Jordan, who's a coach for us, he was the same, and now is so passionate, having spent 3 or 4 years in executive search, I've persuaded him to be a coach for us. He was the same. He was like, I just don't understand why everybody isn't taught it right at the very beginning. Like it's crazy, really.
Amazing.
So yeah, it can be really life-changing.
Yeah. Wow. And so for the people out there that are really interested, and you've definitely convinced them to take the first step, I'd love for you to tell them what the process looks like. How do they go about it? What can they expect?
I would love them to work with us. I don't know of anybody else or anywhere else that will give you the kind of safety of everything that you need to make sure that you don't fall over with it, and that you're supported emotionally and mentally, as well as all the tools and the processes and the documents. But I believe there are other retained trainers. We start with just a consultation with you. It isn't right for everybody, and it's important that we establish that first. So we just want to find out more about you, where you're up to, whether you've had a go and then been scared off, or whether you just haven't done it yet because you're not sure what to do, and why, and what the mentality is, and how you're feeling about it. And just give you a guided tour, show you what we're all about, how it all works, and show you around our home and what's here for you and how we take you through it and support it, and see if it's right for you, really. So that's the starting point. And if it's not, that's cool. Some people go away and think about it for years. I think we did our average kind of time to work together or kind of conversion today, it was like a year. Most people we talk to, and then they think about it and they go away, and then eventually they go, oh yeah, I think it's time. So there's no pressure from us. There's never any pressure. It's got to be what's right for you and when it's right for you. But that's the starting point.
And then what about from that next step? Are there a few different modules, choices, or was it one program?
Yeah, so it depends on where you're at. We have a foundation program and a mastermind program. The mastermind is for those of you that are already 50% retained. And so some of you are part way there, but you can't quite get to the exact stuff or the really big juicy fees, or you want to scale it and you want to grow a retained firm, or you want to go from 50% to 100%. That's our mastermind program, which is the advanced course. Most people start in the foundation course because they're less than 50% retained or no retained. And that's where we take you through 3 core modules. The first is mindset. Like, what actually is retained search? We've touched on a few things today, but most people have got a perception of it that, or a preconception, right, that it isn't necessarily what it actually is. So we lift the bonnet on what the big search firms do and how they do it. And importantly, why do clients buy it and in what circumstances? And then we move into the sales module, and we take that in 4 stages: the identification of the clients that are most likely to be receptive, and the business development side right from the very beginning, and how to originate with existing clients and new clients, and then through to diagnostics and working out whether retained, as we've suggested, it isn't always the right solution to recommend, right? And there's different paths to take them down depending on the circumstances, and how to diagnose that, and then how to explain what you want to do in each of those circumstances and what that's going to look like. And that's obviously supported with all the tools as they go along. We do a lot of coaching and a lot of role playing and putting people through their paces so they practice on us before they take it to their clients in the safety of a safe environment, and help them overcome those objections and how to price, how to propose, what their collateral needs to look like in their terms and stuff. And then lastly, it's the delivery piece. It's all very well getting all that and being able to win your projects, but if you screw up the delivery, then the whole thing falls over and it's been a waste of time and you might as well not have done it. So we then give you every single component of best practice search delivery that means that you can build a best-in-class retained solution for your clients, depending on the circumstances. So yeah, those are the kind of 3 stages that we go through.
Amazing, love it. And from not to give us the price, but is it a per month kind of model, or is it a once-off, or how does that generally work?
It is a significant investment because it's a lot of time and effort on our side, and it produces incredible results. There's a team of 7 of us now, and we put an enormous amount of effort into giving you that wraparound support. So you spend 12 months in total with us, and then you can renew it if you want to.
Wow.
And on that journey, you have ongoing situational day-to-day, hey, I'm stuck with this, or what do I do in this situation, where we continue to support you, and weekly coaching sessions that there's a fixed schedule for coaching originally. And then once you've completed those modules, you have optional coaching sessions you can join as and when you want to, but there's 3 of those every week.
Right.
And it's important that we help people to realize that it's the investment of time, not just, the financial investment. And that then pays back in spades. So see people say, yeah, it's changed my life. I mean, what's the price on that? But the return on the investment, the amount of work that they would have won that they wouldn't have won, and some people say it's 10 times the return, some people say it's 100 times, some people say it's like 300 times. And some of the emails we get and the things that we receive, we've done 660,000 worth of retained projects since we did the course like 6 months ago, and we're like, wow, it doesn't cost that much to do. So yeah, it's a journey that we don't let you fail on, basically.
Love it. I love it. It sounds like you guys have really thought out the process to the finest detail and the support along the way. And
we've been doing it a while now. We've been doing it, since 1920. So we've seen what it takes, how to make sure people are successful with it, where people get stuck, where they need extra support, where they need extra collateral, and where they need a break or time to reflect. And we've just got it to that optimum stage now where we're like, you just do this, take these steps, and this is what's going to happen. And so that's a good place to be. So you're in safe hands if you choose to work with us.
Love it. And if people want to find you, what's the best way? Just jump on the website?
People sometimes say that I'm not very difficult to find because I tend to start following them around, which I don't do deliberately, but we happen to have a very good marketing team. Somebody said the other day that they see me more than they see their wife, which is really embarrassing because I come up on their feed and stuff. So I'm really sorry about that. If you get sick of me, just opt out or whatever. But yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. It's Louise Archer, and the website is retrainedsearch.com. So we're quite easy to find, and we'd love you to look us up. put some time in the diary so we can have a chat and see how you're going and where you're up to.
Definitely. We'll definitely put those links in the show notes. And I've certainly learned a hell of a lot about retained search. And I've realized that, as you say, you do need to lift up the bonnet, because there's probably a lot involved from the inside that you didn't quite expect from the outside. But you definitely put the program together to make sure.
The devil, as they say with these things, is in the detail. And they quite often are.
Well, Louise, I just want to say thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I've really learned a lot. I've enjoyed the chat. I'm sure the audience has learned a lot as well. And you've definitely piqued my interest and my style of working.
Good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Darren. It's been lovely to talk to you and have the opportunity to share some stuff. I'm feeling, it's really nice to chat to you. We've loved our time in Australia. We can't wait to come back.
There's a lot of Aussie recruiters and a lot of great Aussie recruiters, and I think per capita we're some of the strongest in the world. So I'm sure there's plenty of good people.
It's true. It's about 20 or 30% of our client base now.
Really?
Australian recruiters,
amazing.
Growing fast.
Yeah, it's a fantastic industry in Australia. Fascinating. And the RCSA does a great job as well. Now, I always like to leave my guest with the last word. So is there anything that you want to leave us with? Could be anything at all.
I just want to leave people with the sentiment that I see a lot of people shying away from Retain because, for several reasons, because they think they might not be able to do it, or they think that it isn't suitable for their market, or they think that they're working too low level, or they think their clients won't buy it, or they just think, I've had a bad experience with that, and so I'm not quite sure what to do. I have never worked in a market or at a level that hasn't been receptive to Retained in certain circumstances, in those circumstances. And I just want people, don't kid yourself that's the real reason that you're not doing it, because normally the real reason is you haven't worked for a search firm. You haven't worked for a retained firm, so you just don't know how.
It's the unknown.
Don't be hard on yourself. It's just you just don't know the answers to the questions that you've got. What about this? And what happens if some other agency specs in a CV partway through and my client likes that candidate? The reason you don't know the answer to that is because you haven't worked for a retained firm, so you don't know what happens in that situation. So like you would do in any situation, you can actually do it. I just want to tell everyone you can. With the knowledge and the tools, it is not rocket science. So you can do it. There really is nothing to stop you from doing it, only yourself. So just consider a world that could be different from the world that you're in right now being a possibility, because for most people, it absolutely is.
Love it. Just goes to show you how much there is involved in the recruitment industry. Recruitment to the outsider, recruitment is just, recruitment. You just send a few candidates, make a few placements. But there are so many things involved in the industry, so many intricacies. This podcast for an hour has just been about one small micro segment of how we work. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Thank you, Darren. Thank you so much for having me.
But really, really great to have you. Thank you so much. Everybody out there, we'll see you again for our next episode. Stay tuned. And Louise, really lovely to have you on the show, and enjoy the rest of your day in the UK.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Saul Searching, the Saul Recruitment Podcast. If you'd like to join me as a guest on the show, I would be delighted to collaborate. Feel free to buzz me on 0414 659 800 or email me on darren@saulrecruitment.com.au. I'm always on the lookout for great guests who can share their stories and expertise with my community. But for now, though, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.